Hello and welcome back. For this segment, we're going to talk about variety in assessments. We're going to answer two questions. First question is, do you have a strategy for creating a variety of assessments, thinking about summative and formative assessments? And Emery, we'll start with you this time.
Okay, thank you. One of the things I really try to do is make as many of my assessments formative as possible, as opposed to doing summative assessments, because again, it's really about helping students pass the course, master the material, not setting up obstacles for them and making it too difficult for them to do. So, for example, even what is a traditional summative assessment at the end, like a final paper, I have students submitting drafts of that paper pretty much from the first third of the semester on through to the end. And I always say to my students that by the time I get my final copy of your paper, that research paper, it should have been a dialogue between the two of us, so that when I get that last copy, I know exactly what you're doing, you know exactly how I think about it, and we're both in the same place. There's no surprises.
Awesome. Thank you. Angie, what do you do in this area?
I think that I have the traditional summative assessments with final projects and final exams and things, but I also look at it on a weekly basis. I have what could be considered summative assessments there. I teach a lot of coding, so they have hands-on assignments where they need to code things, and they also have quizzes, which are just kind of my way to check, did you do the reading? Did you complete the online course content? If you've done that, you'll pass this quiz. But the other thing that's really important to me, especially in teaching coding classes, is that my students are going to learn from mistakes. So like Emery, I like to turn my summative assessments every week into formative assessments. And I always give them the opportunity to rework those assignments, fix those mistakes so that they can learn from those and resubmit that. So I do a little bit of that as well.
It's kind of interesting the way we're all on the same page. I think one of the things that I like to do is really have them start with a portfolio and they're building pieces in that portfolio, but it is that constant dialogue of, you didn't do so well here, go back in and try it, fix it, and then let's look at it again. So I think that's the same strategy I've used throughout. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk more about the types of assessments that you use. I think both of you have mentioned, projects, you've done different things, but let's talk more specifically about what are those different things that you're doing in your classes, research projects, tests, discussions. Are there project-based learning pieces? So Angie, we'll start the opposite way. We'll start with you this time.
And I'll have to say, I use pretty much all of the above. And it really depends on what the objectives are for the course and what ultimately I want them to be able to demonstrate as an outcome of the course. For some of it, for my coding classes, there are things that they really need to know, right away whenever they are sitting down to work on a coding assignment. So an exam lends itself well to that because I want to see that they can produce that understanding in a timed environment under pressure. But there are other courses I teach where I have no written exams whatsoever, that it's all research papers or portfolios, because really what I want to see is how they develop those ideas over time. And ultimately, that's the deliverable that I want from them. So really, it's a mix depending on the course. Final projects, papers, portfolios I use quite a bit, and then traditional exams.
Awesome. Emery, what about you?
Yeah, it's the same thing as Angie. I use a wide variety of assessments, and I also do some exams, because I'd like to do sort of short, quick exams, because I want them to be able to perform under pressure, to be able to master that and say, I have to be able to concentrate even though I have to get this done in the next 20 minutes. So I think that's also important. But the other thing that I use here, which I found really helpful, is the text box submission in Canvas, because that text box is really, first of all, not so much as a graded assignment, but as to have them do a summary of the reading or the resources before we meet in class, or even have them do it afterwards. And oftentimes I wouldn't grade that, but it would just have to be a complete or incomplete. So they would have to do it. But that way it would get them to stop and think about it, to formulate their thoughts. I, in turn, would get a better sense of where they are and what I needed to do as a teacher to get them to the next level.
I think, again, Emery, I think we're a little similar, and Angie with you as well. I really like, I'm a portfolio person, and I think I've used a couple of quizzes just in the fact of having them find out some basic information. Do you know this? Can we move on from
Mm-hmm.
there? But I really lean towards portfolios and having them do a variety of things. We've done podcasts in their portfolios, we've done elevator pitches. We're doing a big human centered design piece right now, and having students really design a project and figure out a project, which has been fundamental and has helped them really learn the different pieces of the course.